Hey, and welcome back to another Legal Studies Teacher Reads the News for Wimbledon channel. Today we're looking at consumer law, and once again Pete Evans has run afoul of the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Remember Pete Evans here? He is a chef who was formerly of My Kitchen Rules fame, and his company, Peter Evans Chef Proprietary Limited, has run afoul before of the Therapeutic Goods Administration for some advertising about a Wuhan virus biocharger tech light emitter thingy that supposedly stopped you getting coronavirus. So you can look that up in another video that I've made, but let's have a look at this latest thing that's happened here. Celebrity chef Pete Evans fined $80,000, ordered to stop making wellness claims. This is by Daniela White on May 25th of 2021, and it borrows heavily from this media statement and release by the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Celebrity chef Pete Evans has been fined almost $80,000 and ordered to stop making various claims about his wellness products. Remember, pretty much the first sentence of any newspaper article is a broad overview of the entire point of the piece. So if you don't have time, read the first line, and that's pretty much what this piece is going to be about. Note here, what I'm seeking to do is find articles and issues that we can use for legal studies in the HSC. This is for the consumers option over here, and it's a really good example of looking at one kind of thing shows you just how interrelated the syllabus is, and how, depending on what kind of a question you get asked, you can use you can use one article for multiple themes, challenges, and dot points, depending on what you've got. And this is a good example of it. Let's have a look. The Therapeutic Goods Administration issued the infringement notices totaling $79,920 to Peter Evans Chef Proprietary Limited, while Mr. Evans was also ordered to remove non-compliant advertising. So this is from his website. If you look up Pete Evans, you'll find his website, peteevans.com. And there he's got recipes, but he also sells products. Okay, so here we are. Pete Evans, healthy every day. If you have a look at my previous video, you'll notice that he actually is selling a lot less things than he used to. But, thoughtful food range. In my quest to look after my health and that of my family, I discovered the importance of good food that provides a source of nutrients essential for good health. It's why, together with Gel Pro Australia, I've created this great product range for you. So this is him. You can purchase through this, through the website. What have we got here? Sustainable living solutions. Join us on the adventure. All right, so a lot less than he used to. Oh, subscribe. No, thank you very much. There's his various cookbooks, and here's some of his products. The Dream Pod, flotation tanks built to last. I'm sure that doesn't cost much at all. And then food with benefits, organic seaweed, collagen super blend, organic beef liver, etc., etc. Okay, so he's selling these on his website, and some of the things that he has been selling have been making claims that the Therapeutic Goods Administration were not happy with. So he's taken them down. The multiple fines were issued in relation to products including the biocharger device, hyperbaric oxygen therapy chambers, and 2 oral medicines. The products were not, at the time of advertising, included in the Australian Register of Therapeutic Goods. Under Australian laws, all therapeutic goods, like medical devices and medicines, must be entered in the ARTG before they can be advertised. The watchdog also issued fines for the advertising of static magnet products and hyperbaric oxygen therapy chambers because they contained statements that wrongly implied the products were endorsed by a health professional. It comes after the company was in April last year issued 2 infringement notices for its biocharger device. At that time, TGA issued a warning to the company about other products, and obviously those warnings have not been heeded. Let's just finish it and then we'll talk about it. The health watchdog has received a number of complaints about the promotion of the device during a Facebook live stream about Mr. Evans' page, with claims made it could be used in relation to Wuhan coronavirus. So they're recipes. You change the settings and different lights and sounds came out of this $15,000 device, and supposedly, and he just threw it in a line that there's some recipes there for the Wuhan coronavirus. So he claimed on a video that you could stop the device, stop the virus with the device. Due to the repeated nature of the alleged advertising breaches, the TGA has also issued a directions notice to Mr. Evans and his company to cease advertising therapeutic goods not entered in the ARTG and to discontinue making various claims about therapeutic products, the TGA said in a statement on Tuesday. The controversial celebrity chef has previously been booted off both Facebook and Instagram for sharing false claims about vaccinations and COVID-19. Mr. Evans has been contacted for comment and obviously did not choose to do so at the time of publishing. So, what can we talk about when it comes to this issue? Let's have a look. First of all, obviously, we've got this watchdog, Therapeutic Goods Administration. What is it? What is it? Let's look it up. This is actually, let's go and just look it up and look at the About page and see what we've got here. This is the Therapeutic Goods, about the Therapeutic Goods, who we are and what we do. So, the Therapeutic Goods Administration. As part of the Department of Health, the TGA safeguards and enhances the health of the Australian community through effective and timely regulation of the therapeutic goods. Remember, this is them writing this. What does that tell us, though? That tells us that they are a legal response in achieving justice for consumers about the regulation of therapeutic goods. So, what they regulate, regulating the supply, import, export, manufacturing, and advertising of therapeutic goods. Where are we? Pre-market assessment, post-market monitoring, enforcement of standards, licensing of Australian manufacturers, and verifying overseas manufacturers' compliance with the same standards as their Australian counterparts. This is their regulatory framework, etc., etc., etc. They are a government Department of Health administration, so they are a legal response, and they most certainly deal with issues of compliance and non-compliance. For starters. So straight away, you've got a couple of themes and challenges you can talk about here. Straight up, compliance and non-compliance, and obviously Pete Evans is an example of non-compliance and multiple breaches. Okay, multiple fines were issued in relation to his charges. What else have we got? What can they actually do? So what are their actually? Let's see if they're compliance management. So they can make regulatory decisions and notices. And so, failure to pay annual charges, manufacturing licenses revoked, cancellations requested by a sponsor, consent to import, supply, or export goods that do not comply with standards, and there's a whole bunch of other things that they're able to do. So they've got some power. As I said, they're part of the Department of Health, so they can make legal decisions, and you've seen two here. They've both fined Peter Evans, but they've also noticed that they've also ordered him to stop. So it's under here. It's called, where are we? Issued fines and offered a warning here. And to discontinue making various claims. All right, they've issued a directions notice to Mr. Evans and his company. So they can not only make you pay fines, they can actually issue a directions notice saying you are not to do that anymore. And obviously, breaking that is illegal. So we've got, so far, the effectiveness of legal and non-legal measures in achieving justice for consumers. We've got issues of compliance and non-compliance. But note as well, it wasn't on, and this is what he actually got fined for, he didn't sign it up and have it included in the Australian Register of Therapeutic Goods, which, if you think about it, is almost like a license. So you could kind of get it there if it was asked about occupational licensing, or not licensing so much as, standards probably implied by statutes, that these therapeutic goods actually have to be there. I mean, you could push it with occupational licensing, but probably not. But standards implied by statutes, most certainly. And then we've got, obviously, he's claiming that these products are endorsed by a health professional. So we've got regulation of marketing and advertising, most certainly there. So false and misleading advertising, big issues there that he's claiming to do that. This is a federal government organisation, most certainly. And obviously we've got the role of the media here because it's talking about this. Product certification. I think that's probably what I was thinking about with occupational licensing. Sorry, a bit of A brain fart there. Product certification is what I was thinking of. So it would fit into that contemporary issue because you're supposed to have your therapeutic goods certified, put into the Australian Register, and he hasn't done it. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of issues here that he's not complying with. We've got product certification, we've got federal government organisations, we've got standards implied by statutes, noticeably that he's claiming that things are, for example, you can't have misleading advertising, which is clearly done, and I think he had to pay 25 grand for that as well. Let's have a look more at the Therapeutic Goods Administration and what it does. So general advertising requirements. These are basically setting out what you're allowed to do when it comes to advertising. So for example, you've asked for your product to be included in the register, but you cannot say it's the Therapeutic Goods Administration approved. It's acceptable to state your product is included. However, you cannot imply it's approved or endorsed by the TGA or any government authority. You are not permitted to refer to the TGA, use a government logo, or imply that any government body, including those in other countries, endorses a therapeutic good in any advertisement to the public. Refer to section 16, so you can write that down, of the code. Okay, which code are we talking about here? Well, if we go to their actual, this is their media release, you'll notice it's very, very similar to the Sydney Morning Herald article. Under the Therapeutic Goods Act, therapeutic goods, including medical devices, need to be entered into the ARTG before they can be lawfully advertised. And it's a requirement of the Therapeutic Goods Advertising Code that therapeutic goods advertising does not imply products are endorsed by health professionals. Okay, so we've got two different legal acts here that he's broken. So we've got the Therapeutic Goods Act and the Therapeutic Goods Advertising Code. So once again, you can now quote legislation when you're talking about this. You can quote, obviously, the newspaper article. But if we continue looking through the Therapeutic Goods Administration, you'll see, for example here, the TGA reminds advertisers that sanctions and penalties can apply if they advertise therapeutic goods in a way that doesn't comply. The range of compliance and enforcement tools means the TGA can issue infringement notices and take court. The TGA encourages the reporting of suspected non-compliant advertising. So that's an example of awareness and self-help. The TGA website includes tips for consumers about how to spot a dodgy health product ad. That's awareness and self-help. But it's also an example of, that's a non-legal response in achieving justice for consumers. So even though it's a legal organisation, they've got a non-legal response or a non-legal measure to help consumers out. So if we click on it, how to spot a dodgy health ad. So this is an example of educating consumers, trying to rebalance the scales of what we know and what people are trying to sell us and what they know. So if my dodgy internet ever works, we can have a look at that. Continuing, this is, I thought, also quite helpful. General advertising requirements. Here, accurate, truthful, not misleading. Any claims made in advertising must be valid, accurate, and substantiated. The information must be truthful, balanced, and not misleading. And then it talks about, examples like natural. How do you claim it? Claims don't necessarily have to be inaccurate to be misleading, depending on the context in which those claims are made. So it's not just you've specifically made a lie. It could be that you've implied something. While you're not lying, it's heavily implied it does something that it doesn't do. That also falls into it. So the context in which your message is presented, the intended audience for your message and how it could be perceived, and use of visual or non-verbal clues. So it's not like this, just black and white. It's really can be. They're really thinking about how you might be selling it to people, and obviously a whole bunch of other things consistent with the entry, safe and proper use, scientific clinical representation. So you're paying for your own advertising and your own kind of scientific clinic work there. Endorsements, testimonials, advertising to kids, sample offers. So there's a whole bunch of things there that they're talking about. And quite helpful for looking through and thinking about that. This is the Therapeutic Goods Advertising Code, and it talks about all of the things that you're allowed to do. And there was one, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but basically part of it is you cannot advertise something which will make someone less likely to go to a doctor or less likely to believe doctors. So there's been an amendment that basically really, like especially with COVID, so remember this is pre-COVID 2018, that very much makes it clear that you are going to be breaking the law, and the TGA is going to go after you if you try and sell products that will make it more likely people may catch COVID if they follow your advice, or less likely to go to a doctor or to have a vaccine, etc., etc. if you have an advice. And you'll see Lorna Jane got done for that, and I made a video about that earlier. So we'll get out of Pete Evans and the regulatory decisions and notices. And hopefully this, how to spot a dodgy health ad product. Misleading claims, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Unapproved medicine, social influences. So they're really going into a whole bunch of this to talk about and to try and help. There we go. Thank you. To try and help people. And that's an example of a non-legal measure, remember? But the other thing is that they're also kind of encouraging cooperation and resolving conflict, because they're asking consumers to come forward if they see a dodgy product. And they're also helping us out by kind of telling people what they do. So it could kind of fall into that as well. The role of the law and the role of the TGA, which is the law, if you remember. This is a government department in how they're trying to encourage cooperation and resolve conflict when it comes to consumers. And that's one of the things they're doing as well here. If you think about it, they've published information. They've published advertising rules. So they here are most certainly seeking to encourage cooperation and resolve conflict by telling the advertisers, this is what you're allowed to advertise, this is what you're not. So that's a good example there. And finally, before I leave, this last little line here is a nice little kicker to add for you when it comes to this, what you could refer to. The controversial chef, celebrity chef, has previously been booted off both Facebook and Instagram for sharing false claims about vaccinations and COVID-19. That is an example of the role of the media and the role of non-government organisations. I mean, if you think about it, the media was the one that brought it to attention and kind of lobbied for him to, get some kind of pushback for doing this. And then non-government organisations, Facebook and Instagram, actually booted him off their private servers. Remember, these aren't public companies. They can do whatever they want based on their terms and conditions. And they have a thing that if you are sharing false claims about health things, they can boot you off. And that's exactly what they did. Okay, so that's an example of a non-legal measure that helps achieve justice for consumers. So heaps there to look at and to think about. Hopefully, if you're incorporating some of this into consumers and your consumer essay, this might be a helpful case study for you to look at. Catch ya.